Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'll be getting started in just a moment. I'm Chris Percato from the Office of Strategic Planning, and we are here at the meeting 2 for the Central and Northeast Area Boundary Study, Middle School Boundary Study. Thank you for coming out on a disagreeable weather evening. We certainly appreciate your presence. Thank you to our observers who are joining us, our committee members, and everyone joining us via live stream. Thank you, BCPS-TV, for making that possible. A few reminders and housekeeping tips. In the event of an emergency, please note your exits. Our easiest exit is outside, the same door that you came in, to the rear of the cafeteria. We do request everyone, please make sure you availed yourself to the sign-in sheets we have at the front door for both committee members and observers, so that we can be sure to have that accountability in the event of an emergency. We'll be getting started shortly. Do want to remind committee members, please, for the sake of of capturing this on live stream and YouTube video, please, if you have a comment, please be recognized and come up to one of the 2 microphones up front so that we can be sure the audio is captured correctly. Really appreciate your cooperation with that. All materials from this meeting, the presentation, the agenda, the statistics reports, the maps, everything will be available on our website at www.bcps.org. The bottom of that page, there's a link to resources, and from there you can find a link to the Central and Northeast Area Boundary Study. We welcome everyone to, those materials will be posted tomorrow. We welcome everyone to visit that site often for the latest materials. That's also a great opportunity for any members of the public that would like to leave comments for the committee, can do so via that website, and there's an application there to take your comments, and all the latest materials from the meetings you will find there. With that, I'm going to give it off to Mr. James Cooper from Cropper GIS. Thank you, James.
Yes, thank you, Chris. And again, thank you, committee members, for coming out tonight. I know the weather isn't cooperating for our sake, but I'm happy that everybody's here and for a very important boundary study. I also thank you to BCPS-TV, observers here, and those that are viewing virtually as well. Just looking at our agenda here tonight, we have a few things we want to review of some new information that you guys have been supplied in your packets. Kind of go over a recap of some of the group work that we did during last meeting. And then also kind of dive into the handouts for the baseline draft options that we have developed here based on some of your input from last meeting. We're going to have each committee member participate in their small working groups to collaborate, kind of deliberate over these options, get very accustomed to what you're seeing and how to interpret some of the impacts these options may present. Then we're going to have everybody discuss their initial thoughts regarding these draft options to the committee as a whole. And then we'll be able to adjourn out of here by 8 o'clock. So looking at the goals, by the end of tonight, I want all committee members and those viewing publicly to have a good understanding of the enrollment statistics that are developed by these draft options. And we really want to gather your initial feedback, what you like and dislike about each option, and kind of share the advantages and limitations that each group feels each option presents itself. So just a recap of the timeline here, we're already at meeting 2. Things are moving very fast. We have 2 meetings after tonight, and at those following 2 meetings, with the next one being scheduled here on February 9th, we'll look to gather all the feedback that we developed, that you guys have developed here tonight, to kind of reevaluate the baseline options that you guys will review here and create some new options that you as a committee feel is viable. Following our next 2 meetings, we have a public information session 2 that are scheduled for March 8th and March 9th. And then one following meeting after that as a committee before the recommendation to the Board of Education, which is scheduled for May 2nd of 2023. So we're moving along and we're right on schedule, and If you ever need to refer and understand what meetings are coming up, refer to this timeline that's also in your packet and also via the Boundary Study website. So just to recap on why we're here, what are the following factors that are driving this boundary study? There's a construction of a new middle school in the Northeast area that's going to be located off of Kings Avenue. It has an anticipated opening of the 2024-25 school year, and it's expected to accommodate about 1,364 students. We also have a renovation and expansion of Pine Grove Middle School, which will expand its capacity from 1,197 up to 1,283. And that has an anticipated completion of December of 2024. There's also, among the other participating schools in this boundary study, we want to look at providing capacity relief for some of the schools that are over capacity. Perry Hall Middle School and Golden Ring Middle School are two that currently are over capacity. And then we also want to abide and accommodate the ESOL strategic plan of returning ELL students back to their home schools. Currently, Dumbarton Middle School and Dundalk Middle School are regional centers for ELL students in this region. So looking at the anticipated completion, as stated before, fall of 2024 and fall of 2025 are the years that these project schools are anticipated to be completed. And we have 9 participating schools, so it's a very large study area that we are dealing with. We also want to be mindful that Golden Ring Middle School is being repurposed, so the capacity that school provides to this region will no longer be supplemented for enrollment for students within this study area. So just looking at the boundary study objective, this is a community-based comprehensive boundary study, and we're tasked with the following key objectives: to establish a new attendance area for the new middle school that is being built. And then we also want to expand the attendance area for Pine Grove Middle School as they are being renovated and will have additional capacity. So kind of looking at the boundary study considerations, these are like the rules to follow anytime you're evaluating any of these boundaries for the schools in the study area. And looking at these, you have the primary considerations, which are efficient use of capacity in affected schools. So you want to provide balance to all schools within this study area so that not one school is over capacity, and then we have a few schools that are well under capacity. We want to make equitable schools for all students within the study area. We want to look at maintaining or increasing the diversity among schools to reflect the diversity of the region and the school system. So try to be reflective and attain that average of diversity in communities for all schools within the area. Some of the secondary considerations that we must follow as we evaluate these boundaries are looking at maintaining the continuity of neighborhoods. You want to be mindful of not splitting down residential streets so that students are going to school with their peers. We want to be mindful of the impact of transportation and pedestrian patterns on students. Try to keep all students that are within walk zones at their home school. And then we also want to be mindful of the routes that buses must take in order to pick up students to bring them to a school as we evaluate boundaries. We're going to look at minimizing the number of time any individual students are reassigned. There have been a few elementary school boundary studies in this Northeast area in the past, so we're going to definitely be mindful of any students that may have been impacted in that, as well as could be impacted in this middle school boundary study. We want to be mindful of the long-term enrollment and capacity trends and future capital plans. So kind of looking at the projections of each school as they currently are situated, and where is the enrollment trending up or is it trending down? We also want to be mindful of any development that's going on into the area to make sure that any individual school is able to accommodate new development for new families that may be coming within to the study area. You want to have a good understanding of the location of the feeder school boundaries and the continuity of feeder patterns. So that's looking at the progression of students from elementary to middle and middle to high. You want to try to minimize how many times a school is split. So say an elementary school that feeds into a middle school. In a perfect world, we would like that elementary school to feed 100% into one middle school. There are instances when that isn't possible. And in those instances, we want to create an equal split. So a 50-50 split, say from one elementary school feeding into 2 different middle schools. And some additional considerations to be mindful of are the use of geographic features when you're looking at changing a potential boundary, using railroads, creeks, major highways as good bounding lines for each school attendance zone. And then we also, again, want to support the ESOL strategic plan of returning ELL students to their home school. So here we have a couple slides here that are going to go over some follow-up questions that we had from some committee members at meeting 1. One being, how are new residential developments considered in this boundary study? We have supplied you a map as well as a table that kind of outlines some of the approved developments that are going on within the boundary area. The map kind of has a label that highlights and tells you what kind of housing development is being conducted and what attendance area it falls in. There's a number on that map that you can correlate to the table to kind of give you a little bit more information on how many students that particular development is anticipated to yield. BCPS coordinates with Baltimore County Planning to assess the impact of approved residential development. Again, want to note that it's only approved developments that we receive from Baltimore County Planning. It's anything that's pre-approved or in another step within the process is not included in these statistics. The information on currently approved residential developments include the number of units, anticipated student yields, and these student yields were calculated based using yield factors from the BCPS student yield study that was conducted in 2022. You can find information on that yield study via the BCPS webpage under the resource tab as well. And also be mindful that this data is used to inform your decisions as you realign a potential school boundary. So say if a particular boundary is anticipated to yield a lot of students from the future developments, you may want to consider not having that school as full capacitated at this very moment so that school boundary can accommodate the new developments. Another question was, how are magnet seats being considered in this study? Students attending the school but not living within that boundary, those students are preserved, and those students also include magnet students. Looking at your table, the live out attend in number for each school includes students that are attending a school via a magnet program, so that in any of these estimated enrollment for any of these draft options, or when we make changes, all the live out attendance students are being preserved so that their seats at that particular school will remain. Also, the health sciences magnet program that's currently located at Golden Ring Middle School, which is anticipated to be repurposed, that magnet program will be relocated to the new Northeast Middle School as well. Another question we had from meeting 1 is, what is the net increase in capacity seats? Given that this region has 9 participating schools and 2 project schools, and then as well as Golden Ring Middle School being repurposed, as a result of that, the region will reduce its capacity by 844, which currently is the capacity at Golden Ring Middle School, but it will gain 1,364 seats via the new middle school, as well as it will gain 86 seats at Pine Grove Middle School. So looking at the total capacity for this study area, we're looking at gaining a total of 606 seats. We had a few questions about questions about elementary school boundaries and will we be impacting them during this boundary study? We won't, as there have been 3 previous elementary school boundary studies in this region where those boundaries were impacted. This slide here shows you all the schools that, shows you all the schools that were involved in the previous boundary studies. And then we also have an anticipated boundary study for Red House Run Elementary School that's anticipated in 2024 as well.
Sorry.
Yes.
That's actually missing 3 that were in the last boundary study.
It's missing 3 schools as well? Okay.
Hampton, Pleasant Plains, and
Maybe something else.
West.
I'm definitely familiar with this.
Yeah.
Yep, you're correct. Yep. Yeah, she was saying that there were a few schools that were missing from that slide that were actually included. So there are 3 additional elementary schools, including Pleasant Plains and Hampton, that were included in the 3 previous elementary school boundary studies in this northeast area. Another question we had was, under what conditions may a student choose to stay at their school once a boundary change goes into effect? There's a special permission transfer that the district offers, and it will be approved during the first year of a boundary change for students that are currently enrolled in grades 4 through 5, 7 or 8, or 11th or 12th of a school that is affected by a change in the attendance area. And if those students express their interest to remain in the school through their terminal grade. If a student who meets the above criteria has a sibling that is currently enrolled in an affected school, that sibling will also be given the option to remain in the affected school through his or her terminal grade as well. Another question we have from meeting 1 is, what is state rated capacity, SRC, and how is it determined? It's defined by the Maryland State Department of Education. It's calculated based on the number of teaching classrooms in a school and how they are used. It applies to the permanent building only, so relocatable units that are located on the property are not included in the state rated capacity for a given school. And there are room size and use standards for what may or may not count towards the SRC. So just want to kind of review over the planning block exercises that the committee conducted at meeting 1. They reviewed the plot maps of the current boundaries and the planning blocks to kind of get familiar with planning blocks and how to interpret them. There were no suggested cuts or areas where they felt like a planning block should be split into 1 or 2, or that two separate planning blocks should be merged together. Nobody suggested that via meeting 1's exercise, but there were suggested areas that some committee members suggested that we include in these options, and these baseline options include some of those areas that some committee members had voiced via the planning block exercise at meeting 1. Kind of recapping the opportunity analysis summary that each group participated in and at meeting 1 as well. Some of the common traits that all committee members had voiced, looking at the strengths of the present state of the boundaries in this area, is some of the strengths were community involvement. There's familiarity between the residents in these communities and the schools that they attend, and how involved they are currently. There was lots of data available as we supplied to you and as a committee that you're able to review and dissect as you make some executive decisions on particular boundary changes. Most schools are within capacity in this study area. They're currently at 92%, and is the average for the middle school in this study area. And with the new middle school coming and the addition of Pine Grove, that percentage is going to get down to about 87% average for all schools in this area. So there's room to move pieces around. Looking at another strength was the comfort level and peer relationships. Students are comfortable in some of the schools that they've been in, and they have been in for years. So that's another strength of the current state. Some of the limitations were the elementary phase changes that are expected in the next 2 years. As stated before, there were 3 elementary school boundary studies that were already conducted where that impacted a lot of students in the area. And then there's also 1 anticipated next year. Looking at some of the transportation challenges, as some areas within this study area are kind of isolated and bounded by certain waterways, and how that may be affected when realigning it to a different school, and major highways that cut throughout the study area. Looking at the ESOL teacher limitations, bringing ESOL students back to their home schools. Are these schools have enough teachers in order to accommodate these kids adequately? And then development can change. As stated before, we deal with approved residential developments to kind of inform us, but things may change in the future that may impact those developments and how many students that may come from those developments in the coming years. Kind of evaluating the future state and some of the opportunities that the committee expressed when looking at the future state of making a boundary change in this area. Schools under capacity in the study area, that's a good opportunity because it gives us a lot more flexibility to make some changes and give some relief to some schools that are over capacity. The ESOL students returning home, that's an opportunity for students and families to now not have to travel as far for their child. A new Northeast Middle School, a lot of times a new middle school is always exciting for a community, a new facility, a new building. It's definitely an opportunity. And then aligning ES to MS feeders. So aligning elementary school students that feed into middle school. I heard that voiced by many committee members during last meeting. And it's an opportunity for us to help keep a great percentage of these elementary school students that feed into middle school and stop and get rid of some of these smaller splits that elementary schools that may feed into 2 or more middle schools. Some of the challenges that are presented by potentially implementing new boundaries for the schools in the study area are meeting the needs for the ESOL students returning home. As stated before, are these schools, does each school have enough teachers to properly educate the ESOL students that are returning home? The repurposing a middle school in the study area, as stated before, Golden Ring will no longer be a middle school in this study area. That's a challenge, removing a school and its enrollment capacity for this region. Transportation is also a challenge. As we look to populate this new middle school, you'll see that some draft options span a large geographic area. How does that impact transportation? And then magnet program preservation. As stated before, we do preserve those seats for any magnet program that is at a given school via the live-out attendant number. But as you know, the new middle school will be accommodating the magnet program from Golden Ring, and that may be a challenge for some families. So just a quick overview in the enrollment and looking at the current state of this region. We're looking at the 6th through 8th grade enrollment that is currently situated, and then we're also looking at what that enrollment would be once those ESOL students return to their home schools. And that gives us an average of 92% for all schools within the study area. But as you look at this table here, you'll see that Golden Ring is one school that is currently over capacity, and once they receive their ESOL students back home, they'll be significantly over capacity as well. Perry Hall is another school that is currently over capacity, and that capacity will only continue to go down as they receive their ESOL students back in their home schools as well. But you also see that there are Stemmers Run Middle School, among others like Dumbarton Middle School, where there is room for them to provide relief to the neighboring schools within the study area. So before we dive into the options, you want to remember that everything is draft. This is the first set of options that we are viewing as a committee. We really want you to evaluate them objectively, be mindful of the primary and secondary considerations. Those are just the rules to kind of follow anytime you consider changing the area from one school to another. These are subject to change. They're expected to change based on the impact that you committee members expressed tonight and moving forward. So nothing is set in stone. And also, besides just adjusting these options, there may be new options that you as a committee develop here tonight that will be implemented here in the coming meetings. So we have 3 draft options that are presented to you this evening. You should have maps, as well as there are plot maps in the back and on each table that you can go up and view on a larger scale compared to the ones that are in your binders. These maps are also available on the BCPS.org under resources for the Boundary Study webpage, where all this material will be posted there by the end of tonight's meeting. And then there's also croppermat.com/BCPS-CNE 2023. That's an interactive web map. It's very resourceful. I use it often. And it's not static as these maps are, so you're able to move around, zoom in and out. You can use the satellite imagery or street imagery to help hone in. There's also the ability to search a particular address to see, hey, am I going to be impacted by this potential draft option? So it's very resourceful as well. So just remember when you're analyzing these options, you want to study the geography, look at the shape of each boundary school. When you're looking at these maps, they all, you can look at the legend to understand what color what color is related to what school. And then there's a thick black outline that shows you where that current boundary is. So if you look at a thick black outline and the color changes or doesn't change, then that means that it's actually a change in schools from one school to another. You want to study the tables as well after you look at the maps to kind of understand, okay, what is the impact? What is going to be the estimated enrollment that this boundary change is going to be? And how over capacity or under capacity is each school going to be based on these draft options? You want to question why there may be imbalances and examine possible ways to kind of create a better balance between any schools that may show a drastic change in utilization. You want to understand how these draft options support the objective and also the considerations. And we want to kind of look at ways that we can improve the alignment of these draft options to better align with the objective and the boundary study considerations. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some of the tables before letting you as a committee get into your small groups. And on this table here, you'll see that it's the enrollment number. So it just gives you the total number of students that each particular school is projected to have in each draft option. And you want to be mindful that there's two columns that show SRC, state rated capacity. The first one is the current state rated capacity, and the second one is the new state rated capacity since Golden Ring is being repurposed in a new middle school, as well as Pine Grove having the additional capacity. And that shows that 606 increase in seats for the study area. And here you'll see the utilization for each of the draft options. Yes.
I see the number, I just want to get some clarity. When the yellow thing which says the highlights are pending SRC approval, does that mean that those numbers haven't been confirmed yet?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was asking about the highlighted state-rated capacity for Lock Raven Academy. It's highlighted yellow because those SRC numbers are pending approval. They're not confirmed as of now.
We actually got approval today.
Oh.
So those are the real SRCs. No, we'd have to check. I'd have to check. I don't have that information.
It's like a difference of 20. Fewer. Okay, it's fewer than what it was previously. Here, this table that you'll also see in your handout, this is the utilization, and it also shows you how many seats available at each school in each draft option. This is one of the most informative tables you'll have in your packet here, and it really gives you an understanding of what the projected utilization is at each school in each draft option. So for example, Perry Hall is one of the schools that is currently over capacity at 108%. And 139 students over capacity. In draft option 1, the estimated utilization is around 89%, and it opens up about 184 seats at Perry Hall Middle School. Looking at, for example, if you look at option 2 as well, looking at the new Northeast Middle School, it would be estimated opening up at 83%. With 227 seats available at that school. So when you see a minus number in front of that number, that means that shows how many seats are available at any given school. If it's a positive number, when you're looking at the current enrollment, you'll see like Perry Hall has a plus 139. That means that they're over capacity by 139 students. So it's good to evaluate these, and I always, personally, when I look at these numbers, I like to see how far they differentiate from the average within the study area, which is 87% given the new capacity. You'll also have some information on demographics. We have a demographic table to kind of show what the impacts of these options may be on demographically for each school. You'll see that some areas are blacked out, and those are redacted because they're less than 5%. But when evaluating these options, you just want to look at what a school changes from. So looking at Cockeysville and looking at the demographic of Cockeysville and how it changes from where it currently is to where it is in each option. And then you also kind of want to look at the average for each demographic within the study area. You also want to be mindful that schools are located within different communities within the region, so not all schools are going to match the average, because that's just not what that community makeup is in that area. You'll also see impact tables, and this gives you an idea of how many students are estimated to be impacted by these boundary change options. So looking here at option 1, it's estimated to impact 1,529 6th through 8th grade middle school students, living attending students. With these boundary change options, we're only impacting students that currently live within their boundary and attend their home school. So that preserves those live-out attending students to still attend their school. So when you're looking at these tables, this shows you the sum of that. So the example here is option 3, and these green rows show you that there is no change for a particular school. If a row is beige, that shows that there's a change. The first column shows you what the current zone is, and the second column shows you what it would change to, and the third column shows you exactly how many students will be moving from one school to the next. So looking at option 3, it impacts a total of 1,472. That total is the total amount of all these beige rows summed up. So you have a very good idea of how many students will be moving from Middle River Middle School to the new Northeast Middle School. In option 3, there's 85 students. Also within your packet, you'll find the feeder patterns so that we can evaluate the progression of students from elementary school to middle school and middle school to high school. You'll see a total split table here that gives you an indication of how many splits. So looking here at Cockeysville, middle school feeds into 2 high schools. 97% feeds into Delaney High School and 3% feeds into Loch Raven High School. That is considered one split. These tables here sum up the total splits for each boundary configuration, for current and each boundary option. We have those for elementary to middle school as well. The tables are a lot larger, as you'll see in your packet, but it's good information to kind of understand how we're impacting the students and how they progress from elementary to middle and middle to high in these options. All options appear to or do decrease the amount of splits that elementary school students experience to middle school compared to where they currently are situated with this boundary area. We also have a walk zone table, and this just gives you a total count of how many 6th through 8th grade middle school students are living within a walk zone. In each option, currently there are 1,946 students that are within a walk zone. And in these options, we do preserve all those students. You'll see that the number goes up to 2,068, and that's because the new Northeast Middle School has a different walk zone, so they can take in additional more students than what the previous Golden Ring Middle School walk zone was. So you'll see an increase, but all students are preserved, all walk zone students are preserved in these options, and it's something to be mindful of as we don't want to impact those kids and move them to a school where they now have to be bused or car ride to. So I'll do a quick overview of the options before I let you guys break into your groups. Looking here at option 1, you have a map within your packet as well, and big plot maps to also look at. But just looking at some of the advantages of option 1, Perry Hall Middle School gets relief. It has an estimated utilization of 89% in option 1, and it's currently at 109% or 108% with the current configuration. The balance is provided to all schools within the study area, so you'll see that all schools in option 1 fall within 6% of the district average of 87%. We reduced the elementary school to middle school splits, which is currently at 27 in this boundary study area, and we get those down to 19 in this option. We preserve all students that are currently within a walk zone to not, to not impact pedestrian patterns. But looking at some of the limitations of option 1 is we do increase the middle school to high school splits in this area. It's currently at 10 and it does go up to 14. And there's some areas that have some small splits that you'll see result from this from this option. And it's something that we should look at as a committee to see if there's ways to improve upon that as we evaluate it. Looking at option 2, there's some of the same similarities when it comes to advantages for option 2. Perry Hall gets relief and is estimated utilization of 89% in this option. Again, balance is provided to all schools so that they all fall within 6% of the district average for this area of 87%. Option 2 does reduce ES to MS splits, which is currently at 27, to get them down to 17 is this option, so even a little bit more improved than option 1. Preserve all students within walk zones in option 2 as well. But some of the limitations of option 2 is it increases the middle school to high school splits from 10 up to 13 splits from middle school to high school, and then it also impacts the most students of the 3 options. We're looking at estimated 2,078 students that will be impacted by option 2. Looking here at option 3, there are some of the similar advantages as explained before, but option 3 actually impacts the least number of students of the 3 options. 1,472 students are estimated to be impacted. Balance is still provided to all schools within the study area, as they all fall within about 7% of the district average. Reduces the elementary school to middle school splits down from 27 to down to 18 from 27. Preserves all walk zones, but again, one of the limitations with this option is it increases the middle school to high school splits, which is currently at 10 up to 14 in this option. So when you're looking at these maps as well, I forgot to mention with option 1, you'll see that the red background is the new northeast boundary that is being drawn. So you kind of get an understanding of how that changes between all 3 options. So before you get into your small groups to kind of deliberate over these options, be inclusive. Some of the expectations are being inclusive, let each group member talk. Spend adequate time considering how each proposed change will impact all the diverse stakeholders. You want to be mindful of the boundary study considerations that we've expressed, the primary and secondary ones, and use of each guideline as we collaborate throughout this process. Be mindful that if conflict arises, try to avoid blame and be respectful to one another, and expect that there may be non-closure. This is the first night that we're actually viewing options. We expect that there may be changes with these options moving forward, and that's what we're hoping for. We just want good educated input on what areas may change and what areas are limited in changing in these options as we review them tonight. So now we'll have everybody break into their small group. We have plot maps on your table if you want to spread them out so you can kind of view them side by side. We definitely have adequate space here. If you need to spread out further, it certainly works. We'll reconvene here in about 30 minutes. There's Post-it notes on your tables. Please mark up the maps with any suggested changes, areas that you like, areas that you don't like. And after we finish this, we'll have each group come present their findings to the rest of the committee.
expensive.
these are.
Why is it longer?
Like take all of the La Crusta and because they need it anyway. Or let them stay at my rate.
But not their new projected enrollment. Nope. We were like 101, but our projected was really under.
Can you bring your laptop? They needed to see the papers. He's got his shown how to turn on the different options.
So what do you want to look at?
I want to look at, is it general purpose? No, the parking, look at the parking parkville area to see,
What you want to look at now? Here it says middle school. That's current middle school zone. You can switch that to elementary.
so purple means they're all going to Villa Cresta?
Right. That would be Villa Cresta.
Okay.
Green would be Oakland. Yeah, green would be Oakland.
Or you're just getting
And
started.
then this lets you go to option one, option two. Well, yeah, all that area isn't changing under any of the options. Filters.
Committee members, we have about 15, 20 minutes. And then after that, we'll get to each group presenting. About 15, 20 minutes.
That's not my problem. Get in your car, Jen.
They have TikTok for that.
Then I guess you gotta choose another best friend. It's middle school, don't worry, it will happen like 20 times to go out there. Right, I mean, so, don't worry. Right, I mean, exactly. How many fights do you all have of past friends? And then they'll be happy to go. Exactly.
So let's look here. We're good. We cut red here. Cut red there. And then cut blue. No. Zip red. Go. Stop the road.
Even though it's still a salamander.
What are these salamanders?
Where they come from? When they looked at the boundary,
You guys look like salamanders. We'll get you some salamander? Yes.
Right now, about 235.
Well, some of them will still stay.
Well, because we're using about 68. Go back to Cockeysville.
it's gonna like
That's the city county line. So I think the concept of
committee members, if we could try to wrap up your last thoughts here, another 2-3 minutes, try to wrap up your last thoughts. Some of the pros and cons of each option. We'll collaborate here as a whole in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, please.
I do. I have my youngest is at Dunbar. Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah. I don't have kids. My oldest is at junior at Towson. I live in her.
Oh.
I live in her. So it's that dual purpose, right?
So your kids went to Dunbar.
Yes, all three of them did. Two of them. Yes, all three went to had.
To Harris.
She was an. She was there, maybe. She's a legend there. She was. She was there for like 15 years, 20 years.
Oh wow.
And got appointed to Towson High. That's when Penelope hired. She was maybe there. So, but yes, my kids there under Sue for the most part.
No.
Well, they cut a little. They shaved a little bit off the west side, but they go to Ridgely, so they're 6 of one, half dozen. Right? Those parents like it, and it's more rural, not western. Sanford 83 butts up to the county. That's all the schools go to. Get a shovel. The only thing I will say to you is that there was never any what's happening. And those same parents are the ones who live.
Alrighty, committee members, can we wind down here? See if we can get back to our tables and committee. Can we wrap it up? Ooh, no, that was still on. Committee members, can we wrap it up so we can get to each committee group sharing their findings? Sorry to be boisterous. I heard some great conversations going around. You can leave it there, doesn't matter. Alrighty, do we have a group that wants to come up and present some of their findings? Any of the strengths and limitations of each option? Any suggested changes to each option? Do we have a group that would like to volunteer to go first?
Go ahead. Get on out. Get out there.
Great. Is this Group Orange right here?
We are Group Orange.
Group Orange. Group Orange is coming up first.
I'll hold your ball. No, I'm good.
Could you get your attention to the front here? So,
All right, so we spent a lot of time, am I close enough to the mic? We spent a lot of time looking, we finally kind of landed on option 2 as one. Some of the 1 and 3, we felt like that new Northeast Middle School was really, really spread out, a little too spread out for our liking to develop that community feel. So we felt like option 2 kind of narrowed that a little bit for us. The one change that we kind of looked at, we were playing around with, that we didn't figure out a full solution. If you move planning block 702, it's a small block that's currently at Parkville, to Lock Raven Academy, that does keep one whole elementary school together. So right now, okay. So that Halstead right now is 1% goes, oh my gosh. I don't know what happened to the pink ones.
Okay.
But this little block right here is it would keep an elementary school together. So we started to play with then, how do we then get those 62 back to Parkville that we've taken away? We hadn't gotten to that solution yet, but that's where we were.
okay. Good information.
Oh, yay!
Oh, there you go. We have Group Blue. You want me to hold one side? I get the other.
He wants to hold the mat.
Okay.
No, you can hold the mat. Doesn't have
Somebody
to
gotta speak.
So down here, PB 803. This little blue section behind McCormick could go to Parkville. We're not sure if that's in Elmwood or not, but we feel like that should all go to Parkville.
We were on our way. Jeffrey's, good job. I got you.
Yeah. So, real quick, I can't do this. All right, you mind holding that? Thank you. All right, so another one of the concerns that we had, this is option 2 up here. We were taking a look at some of the commute times, just simply driving from Oliver Beach to the new Northeast Middle School, or from Seneca to the new Northeast Middle School. And just from Oliver Beach to the new middle school is 20 minutes. And that's not picking up and dropping off kids on a bus. So we would like to see some of the transportation numbers that would come out of a bus route here, a typical route, and how long that would take, because I think that's a pretty significant commute. Option 3 sends most of this to Middle River, which is where they go anyway. So that was one of the other concerns that we had. Did I get everything?
We said PB 702 and 701 should probably go to Lock Raven because Lock Raven's not going to have a lot of new construction. Like, they're pretty much maxed out for construction in that area, so I feel like they could absorb and not really have to worry about having a population explosion there because there's no more room to build more houses, really. Unless apparently they built this thing where you can put rental properties in your house, but. And we have a train track issue, I think, with PB 1022. Which I can't remember where it is, but it's somewhere. It's on a different map, not this map, but it's on map 3. Yeah, map PB 1022. On map 3, it goes to, right, it goes to Middle River, and there's a train track that's on dividing. So there is a ramp to go underneath, but it's a dark, not well lit, always gets flooded in the little walkway under the train track, so I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Thanks. I have to ask, was there any opinion on any of the other options outside of option 2 that you wanted to voice, Group Blue? Nope. Okay.
All right, hello. So we were looking at something a little different. We were looking at the safety of no, first of all, we're looking at the fact that Dumbarton stays at 82%. So that's a problem. Why is it they only at 82%? So we were looking at is moving Lock Raven's boundary to from York Road over, go to Dumbarton. It's a natural boundary because where they have it now for Goucher is very dangerous with the kids crossing the street. A kid got hit by a car already this year. And with Calvert Hall, which is not on here, right across, you got all of those young people driving fast, speeding. It's absolutely no crossing guards at Lock Raven. So those kids are basically on their own. So when the bus doesn't come, my daughter has to cross Lock Raven, walk all around Goucher, and then try to cross. And those people come over Taylor Avenue flying and around that corner because there's no light there. It's just a crossing thing, and they on their own. Then we were looking at moving the boundary line and maybe moving some of the Pine Grove, maybe not this much, but this little area has 78. This little area, that's 78, would pick up because it's only about 50 kids in this area. It's not even that many kids in that large area. Taking about 78 from this area, moving them to Lock Raven, and it's a more natural boundary. And then we were looking at why they splitting up this neighborhood right here in Dumbarton, where they could either move them all, Dunfield, either move them all to Pine Grove or all here, but just splitting in the middle of the neighborhood. And I think that's the only one where they're splitting a neighborhood completely. And then we said, what's that say?
It's just a weird line. We thought there was a more natural.
We thought Philadelphia Road was a more natural line than the one it's currently on. And as we looked, we were just trying to find ways to relieve Perry Hall because that's where all the development's happening right now. So
there's no development.
There's no development in a lot of those other areas, like you guys said. That's where the development is, so quite frankly, that's the place that probably needs the most relief. I mean, nobody's building in Dunbarton to fill that 82%. Like, nobody's building in those areas, so.
And even though it shows, kids from Dunbarton taken from here, it's only 20 kids, 30 kids. No, it's no reason they sitting at 82%. So that's my biggest question. What are we trying to preserve here that we're leaving them at 82%? So that's my thought.
Good input. Alrighty. Group Green. I'll help you hold it. Are you sure? Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Ooh, I didn't know it was going to come off. All right, I'm just going to do that. All right, so we chose option 1. A couple different reasons. We have some comments on each one. So for number 3, that seems to be the least amount of change in percentage and in general closer to capacity for number 3. Also, oh, that's a 2. In number 3, this area down here, they had a lot of families when Vincent Farm opened up. They had a lot of families that lived in the Middle River area, and they didn't get to go to the new Vincent Farm. They stayed in the older schools. So then those same kids would have the same thing, that they would be going to the older school and not get to go to the new school. So it's just a little thing. All right, for option 2, we felt was the best one that had the least amount of splits. So the most of those peer groups and neighborhood groups are staying together. So that was a benefit for number 2. And then up here, 1, we would love for the next time to have something about transportation, about like how long it would take. So like these kids right here, it would take them 17 minutes by car to get to Cockeysville. So how long is that going to take from a bus? That's a really, really long bus ride. So could some of those kids kind of come down here to Pine Grove, planning block 230 and 231, and this is all the same on options 1, 2, and 3. Move 229 to Cockeysville. Right now, they are split in between Pine Grove, like currently, they're split in between Pine Grove and Ridgely.
Right, so these kids right here are in different elementary schools, but they're all Ridgely kids. And so we're now gonna split them up and send, these kids are all on one bus together. And so now we're gonna split them up and send these kids down here, send these kids over to Cockeysville. These kids make sense to go to Cockeysville, they're on the other side of the reservoir. But these kids should stay where they are. It's only 27 kids, so I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze in that move.
Okay.
That's it.
Awesome. Good input. And do we have some from, I'm sorry? You agree with everybody said? Nobody wants to come up and speak on any of the strengths and limitations of an option. I think the rest of the committee would benefit from it. It would take. Cause you gotta. Should I bring you the mic? I just for 1 second. Let me get you the mic. Yeah, well, it's okay. It's okay.
So we chose option 2 because we felt that it benefited the most students and it had the least amount of what we thought were negative, impacts on the zoning. Thank you.
That's it. I appreciate your input, as does the rest of the committee. So that was good. I heard some very, very good discussions from all the committee groups. There's a lot of information that we're going to take from each of these options, maps that you guys have marked up, some of the things that you spoke about tonight. We're going to take this information and see if we can revise some of these options to build some better options that help better align to the primary and secondary consideration. Outside of that, our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 9th, same location, 6 to 8. At that meeting, we will bring some revised options that will have a lot of the input that you as a committee spoke about tonight, and then we'll deliberate those options further. Again, thank you for your time, your input, and your knowledge tonight. Thank you very much.